The night of November 29th, 2025, felt different the moment the gates opened at Ohio Stadium. A cold front had rolled across the Allegheny River, but the wind couldn't touch the heat rising from 105,000 souls packed shoulder to shoulder in scarlet and gray. 4 years of scar tissue, 4 straight losses to Michigan. For winters of hearing the same punchlines on every sports radio show from Toledo to Tampa had built up like storm clouds, and tonight the sky was finally breaking open. The signs in the stands didn't ask for a win. They demanded an exorcism. Snap the streak in giant block letters. Ryan Day's revenge, payback in full. Even the marching band spelled it out in pregame script. OHEO over a giant cracked block M inside the ESPN broadcast booth high above the south end zone. Reese Davis adjusted his headset and looked down at the field where both teams were finishing warm-ups. "You feel that?" he asked off-air to Desmond Howard and Kirk Herbstreit. Desmond just nodded slowly, eyes wide. Kirk exhaled a single word. Reckoning. Kickoff came at 8:17 p.m., under a half-moon that hung low and orange over the open end of the horseshoe. It's Michigan, desperate to play spoiler and salvage a season that had already slipped away from playoff contention. Deferred after winning the toss, Ohio State took the ball, and the stadium detonated on the very first snap. Julian Sayin, the redshirt freshman, 5-star arm, baby-faced assassin, trotted out like he'd been starting rivalry games for a decade instead of 6 total college games. On first down, he faked a jet sweep to Trevayon Henderson, rolled left, flicked a 12-yard dart to Emeka Egbuka on a whip route before the linebacker could even turn his hips. The crowd noise spiked so hard, the Fox broadcast registered a legitimate earthquake reading on the stadium seismograph. 3 plays later, on 3rd and 7, Sayin stared down an all-out blitz, stepped up, launched a 38-yard rainbow to Jeremiah Smith streaking down the sideline. Smith, another freshman, went up over to Michigan defensive backs, snatched the ball at its highest point with one hand, and tapped both feet in bounds. Touchdown. 7-0 Buckeyes, before most fans had even found their seats with their beers. Michigan answered with a field goal. Then another after Sayin's only mistake of the night, a forced throw across his body on 2nd down that was picked. Off and returned to the Ohio State 18, the Wolverines kicked another chip shot. 7-6. The old ghost started whispering. Social media lit up with the same tired memes that had haunted Columbus since 2021. But Ryan Day never flinched on the sideline. He just clapped once, hard, grabbed Sayin by the face mask, said something the sideline microphone barely caught. "That's the only one they get. Now go end this story." Sayin listened. The next 6 possessions for Ohio State were surgical. Chip Kelly's playbook, once criticized as too cute, suddenly looked like a horror movie for Michigan's defense. Jet motion, play-action boots, RPOs that froze linebackers, bunch formations that created instant rub routes, everything worked. Sayin went 11 of 12 for 142 yards and 2 more touchdowns in the second quarter alone. The second score came with 16 seconds left in the half, 4th and goal from the 9. Clock ticking, Michigan showing cover 0. Sayin took the shotgun snap, pump faked the slant to Carnell Tate, then lobbed a back shoulder fade to Brandon Inniss in the corner. Inniss Most, the cornerback, came down with it, and the horseshoe hit a decibel level that made the 2016 Clemson game sound like a library. 24-9 Buckeyes at the break. The band played Hang On Sloopy so loud the camera lenses vibrated. Halftime felt like a coronation. Brutus Buckeye crowd-surfed the student section. Lee Corso, wearing the Script Ohio hat on college game day that morning, was shown on the video board dancing like a man half his age. In the tunnel, Ryan Day gathered his team one last time. No yelling. It's just a calm, almost eerie certainty in his voice. "They've taken everything they're going to take from us," he said. "Now we take the rest." The second half was academic, almost cruel. Ohio State's defensive line, Jack Sawyer, JT Tumalo, Kenyatta Jackson, Tyleik Williams, lived in Michigan's backfield. Quarterback Alex Orji and backup Davis Warren combined for 7 sacks and 12 hurries. The Wolverines managed 112 total yards after halftime, 0 third-down conversions. A late Jalen Harrell field goal in the 4th quarter was the only Ohio State points they needed. But it felt symbolic. The senior from Tampa, who had lived through all 4 losses, finally getting to kick the door shut. Final score, 27-9. The streak was dead. When the clock hit triple zeros, Ryan Day didn't run to midfield for the traditional handshake. He stood on the Buckeye logo, arms outstretched, soaking it in while the stadium sang Carmen, Ohio at full throat. Then he walked straight to the student section, climbed the railing, and crowd-surfed himself. Grown men cried. Someone threw a 2021 Beat TTUN shirt onto the field that day, caught one-handed, and held over his head like a championship belt. Julian Sayin finished 19 of 26 for 233 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception that barely counted anymore. Jeremiah Smith had 8 catches for 147 yards and 2 scores. Trevayon Henderson and James Peoples combined for 168 rushing yards. But the box score only told half the story. The other half was the look on Michigan's sideline, players staring at the turf, coaches with hands on hips, realizing the rivalry had flipped irrevocably. Sharon Moore, in his first year replacing Jim Harbaugh, walked to midfield, shook Day's hand, and said something brief. Day just nodded, expression unreadable behind the visor. In the post-game press conference, the room was packed, wall to wall. Day took the podium wearing a gray hoodie that read the team up north with a red X through it. The first question came from a reporter who had covered all 4 losses. "Coach, what does this one mean after everything?" Day paused, looked down at the table, then straight into the cameras. "It means the standard is still the standard," he said, voice cracking just slightly. "It means our seniors get to leave here having beaten that team up north. It means the ghosts are gone. It means we're not done." Sayin, sitting to his right, still in full uniform, shoulder pads and all, just grinned when asked if he felt pressure replacing Kyle McCord and Will Howard as a redshirt freshman in the game. "Pressure," he said. "Man, I grew up dreaming about nights like this. It had 4 years of hearing how they owned us. I just wanted to be the one to flip the script." Outside the stadium, High Street was already a war zone of joy. Students poured out of the shoe and marched 10 abreast toward campus police escorting them like it was a victory parade that started 3 hours early. Cars honked in rhythm with OHEO. Someone climbed a traffic light with a Michigan flag and lit it on fire. Couch fires dotted the landscape like bonfires at a Viking funeral for the losing streak. Back on ESPN, the late Sports Center opened with Scott Van Pelt standing in front of the highlight reel on loop. Sayin to Smith, Sayin to Innes, Day crowd surfing, the final scoreboard. For the first time since 2019, Van Pelt said Ohio State beats Michigan. And they didn't just beat them, they dominated them in a way that felt almost therapeutic for an entire fan base. Ryan Day keeps his job, keeps his sanity, and maybe, just maybe, reclaims the throne of the Big Ten's most hated rivalry. The graphic flashed. Ohio State 27, Michigan 9, streak snapped. Then the Chiron that would run for days. The game belongs to Columbus again, in Indianapolis. They're already printing tickets for next Saturday's Big Ten championship. No. 1 Ohio State versus no. 2 Indiana. Win that, and the Buckeyes will carry a 13-0 record and the no 1 overall seed into the college football playoff. But for one night, none of that mattered. The only number anyone in Ohio cared about was 4 turned into 0. Somewhere in the quiet of the now empty horseshoe, the goalposts still stood for now. Security knew better than to try taking them down too early. The fans would want their souvenirs. The streak was dead. The king was back. The party, from High Street to the banks of the Scioto, was only getting started.